The great chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. The usual noise of arguments and speeches was gone. Dozens of alien leaders sat in their high-backed chairs, their faces lit by the blue glow of the massive circular war table in the center. Outside the tall observation windows, the stars hung in cold silence, watching everything. At the head of the chamber sat the council chair, a tall, silver-skinned being with calm but sharp eyes. His hands rested on the table, but his mind was racing. This was supposed to be a moment of celebration. The United Galactic Coalition had finally decided to bring humanity to its knees. Every military expert had predicted that humans would fall within weeks, maybe days. And yet something strange was happening. One of the counselors, a reptilian creature with hard green scales, broke the silence. "Why are their fleets moving like that?" he hissed, pointing at the holographic map. "That is not the standard defense formation." The war table displayed hundreds of small light icons. Blue for human ships, red for coalition forces. The red icons were spread across several star systems, surrounding the Sol system like a tightening noose. But the blue icons were different. They were not retreating. They were not gathering at Earth to defend. Instead, they were splitting into groups and jumping toward multiple alien systems at once. "That can't be right," said another counselor, a tall avian species with golden feathers. "Their ships don't have the range for that many simultaneous jumps." "They're bluffing," but it wasn't a bluff. The feed from the observation drones confirmed it. Human fleets were vanishing from known jump gates and appearing deep inside coalition territory. It was like watching water flow uphill. The council chair leaned forward. "Bring me their movement logs." "Every second counts." Technicians rushed to display the data. Across the chamber, whispers grew louder. For centuries, the Galactic Council had been the ultimate power in the galaxy. Wars were decided by their strategies, their technology, their sheer numbers. Humanity was supposed to be a minor species, aggressive, unpredictable, but limited. No one in that room had imagined they would take the initiative like this. A holoscreen flashed live footage from a distant star system. A massive alien shipyard guarded by cruisers suddenly found itself under attack. Human vessels, smaller but faster, dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Their railguns fired within seconds. The alien defenses didn't even have time to reposition. Explosions lit up the dark void. The reptilian counselor slammed his fist on the table. "How are they already at Yantar 4? "That system is 20 light jumps from Sol." "They must have found alternate routes," a quiet voice replied. It came from a gray-skinned strategist, one of the few beings who had studied human history deeply. "They have always been creative with paths. Remember how they bypassed the Vex mines during the Jupiter conflict?" The chair raised a hand. "Enough. We need to understand their objective." "What are they targeting?" A technician hesitated. "Not planets, sir. Supply lines. Communication relays. Command hubs, they are." Cutting off the head. A chill moved through the room. This was not a desperate defense. This was a surgical strike. As more systems came online, the chamber filled with overlapping voices from alien commanders across the galaxy. "They're inside our perimeter. Our main relay is down. They're moving faster than our sensors can track. Static, chaos, panic." The avian counselor ruffled his golden feathers nervously. "This isn't how wars are fought. They're supposed to defend their home first. Why are they attacking so boldly?" The strategist looked at the counselor with cold eyes. "Because they know defense means death. So they are bringing the fight to us." The council chair stood slowly. The room fell quiet. "Contact the fleet commanders. Order all forces to prepare for unpredictable jumps. Increase sensor range, and get me full reports every minute." But even as he gave the orders, the situation worsened. The holographic map began to shift rapidly. Blue icons appeared in 3 more systems. Within minutes, critical supply stations blinked out. Communications between fleets broke down. The Galactic Coalition's war machine, so proud and massive, was starting to fracture, and it had been less than an hour since the first attack. The chair watched carefully. His calm face hid a growing unease. Humanity's tactics were not just surprising. They were terrifying. No wasted movement. No hesitation. Every strike was planned with precision, as if they had read the Council's entire strategy before the war even began. Another holofeed opened. It showed a coalition fleet trying to intercept a human strike group. The aliens deployed in traditional formation, slow, wide arcs meant to trap the enemy. But the humans didn't follow the expected path. Their ships curved in unexpected directions, cutting through the formation like a blade. Within minutes, the alien fleet was shattered. The counselors stared, silent. A young officer whispered from the corner, not realizing his mic was on. "They're fighting like they already know how we'll react." The chair's gaze turned sharp. He heard it. "Everyone did," the reptilian counselor hissed. "We underestimated them," the strategist replied, almost as a warning. "No, we misunderstood them. This is not the same species that first entered our galactic stage a century ago. They've been preparing." The chamber lights dimmed as another star system fell under human control. The timer on the wall showed that only 47 minutes had passed since the war began. The council chair stood silently, looking at the glowing map. One by one, blue icons moved deeper into red space like wolves entering a sheep pen. The council had gathered here expecting to watch humanity struggle. Instead, they were watching the galaxy change before their eyes. No one spoke. No one dared to. The war was only beginning, and humanity had already taken control. The war table glowed brighter as new battle data poured in. Blue human fleet icons moved like hunting predators, cutting through coalition territory with shocking precision. The council chamber, once confident and loud, now echoed with tense whispers and hurried footsteps. Technicians rushed to keep up with the flood of reports. Commanders shouted over comms, demanding explanations that no one could give. The council chair stared at the star map. Every minute, the humans launched another unexpected move. They weren't defending Earth. They were striking deep into enemy lines faster than any council strategist had ever imagined. This was not a random attack. It was a carefully calculated storm. On the central display, the focus shifted to a critical relay station orbiting a binary star system. This station connected several major coalition fleets. If it fell, entire defense sectors would lose coordination. Coalition admirals had called it untouchable. Yet human ships were already there. The alien operators zoomed in. Dozens of sleek human warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Their arrival wasn't loud. It was silent, precise, like a scalpel cutting into flesh. Before the alien defense fleet could even power up their weapons, human drones spread out like a metallic swarm. "Those are autonomous?" one counselor asked, leaning forward. "Yes," a technician replied nervously. "Their numbers are increasing every second." The drones moved with frightening speed, targeting communication dishes, shield emitters, and power lines. Alien ships scrambled to respond, but their systems lagged. Human cyber warfare teams had already jammed their transmissions. Commands were delayed. Alarms blared across the station, but it was too late. Within minutes, the station's defenses collapsed under the overwhelming swarm. A massive explosion lit up the chamber's war table. The council watched in stunned silence as the critical relay station, something they believed invincible, fell in less than 6 minutes. "They planned this," the strategist said softly. "They knew exactly where to strike first." In another sector, a coalition armada was preparing to launch an assault on Earth. Hundreds of alien ships gathered near the jump corridor, confident they would crush human defenses. But before they could jump, their fuel convoys vanished. Human strike teams had attacked the supply ships far behind the front lines, leaving the armada stranded in deep space. Without fuel, their mighty ships became floating targets. The avian counselor slammed his clawed hand on the table. "How can a species with fewer ships attack in so many places at once?" The strategist turned to him. "They are not following our rules. They are using speed, surprise, and technology in ways we refuse to believe possible." The chamber lights dimmed again as more feeds came in. Human fleets didn't travel through the usual jump gates. They appeared in unpredictable locations, using hidden shortcuts and unstable wormholes that alien species considered too dangerous. For humans, risk was simply another weapon. An alien general's face appeared on a holoscreen, his voice trembling. "We are under attack at the Tyro shipyards. We didn't even detect their approach. How is this possible? Where's our backup?" The council chair clenched his jaw. There is no backup. Everyone is under attack. The Tyro shipyards were the pride of the coalition, massive orbital factories where new warships were built. Hundreds of alien engineers worked there daily. The humans struck without warning. A single carrier released a wave of stealth drones that infiltrated the station's power grid. Moments later, railgun strikes followed, hitting precise structural weak points. Explosions ripped through the shipyards. The lights of the once great station faded into darkness. The chair watched closely. Humanity wasn't just winning battles. They were breaking the enemy's spine. Communication, fuel, production, all collapsing at once. It was a strategy no alien race had ever dared to attempt. On the map, coalition fleets tried to regroup, but their coordination was falling apart. Commanders gave conflicting orders. Some ships retreated. Others charged forward blindly. Without proper communication, their massive numbers became a burden. Fleets collided, signals were jammed, and panic spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, human fleets remained disciplined. Every movement was sharp and timed. They didn't waste a single second. Their strategy was simple but devastating. Strike fast, disappear, strike again. Like ghosts in the dark. A nervous technician turned to the chair. "Sir, human fleets have just entered the Archon system. That's only 4 jumps away from the Council core." The room fell silent. "No fleet has ever reached Archon this early," whispered the avian counselor. "Not in any war." The strategist's voice was cold. "They are not playing a game. They are ending a war." Another live feed appeared, this time showing the human flagship. Sleek, black, and bristling with weapons, it moved like a predator in open space. Alien defense fleets fired volleys of plasma, but the human ship used unpredictable maneuvers, dodging with impossible precision. A single kinetic projectile from the human flagship pierced through 3 alien cruisers in one shot. Their shields barely slowed it down. Council members stared at the footage in disbelief. For centuries, they had seen humans as reckless fighters, brave but limited. What they were witnessing now was something else entirely: mastery. The council chair turned to his officers. "Send emergency orders to all sectors. Prioritize defense of Archon. Block every jump route." "Already done, sir," the officer replied. "But their ships aren't using the usual routes." "Then find out how they are doing it," the chair said sharply. The war table flashed red again. Another sector had fallen. Another fleet had been cut off. Another relay was gone, 5 hours. That was the time the analysts had estimated for humanity's total defeat. But now, less than 2 hours into the war, it was the coalition that was breaking. The chair leaned back in his chair. His eyes moved slowly across the map, a galaxy that was supposed to be theirs to control. And yet everywhere he looked, the humans were already there, striking faster than thought, faster than fear. "This," he whispered, "is their real power." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, the ancient chamber felt small, fragile, and powerless. The humans had not only attacked, they had changed the entire war in a single strike. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone could understand. Across hundreds of star systems, news of the human strike spread like wildfire. Command centers, relay stations, shipyards, places that once seemed untouchable, were falling one after another. The coalition's military network was built to handle slow, predictable wars. Humanity had turned it into glass in a matter of hours. In the Galactic Council chamber, the air felt heavy. Reports came in faster than anyone could process. Hollow screens filled every wall, showing collapsing fronts, panicked broadcasts, and confused commanders. Council members, who had once sat proud and calm, now leaned forward with fear in their eyes. Their control was slipping away. In one corner of the chamber, a young avian officer read out a trembling report. "Sector 9 command has gone dark. Communications severed. No response from defense fleets. Civilian transports are scattering." "Scattering," the chair repeated, his voice low and dangerous. "Yes, sir. They're fleeing on their own routes." "No coordination?" The strategist shook his head slowly. "Once the civilians panic, fleets collapse. This is exactly what humans want. Fear spreads faster than ships." In another system, a massive alien city station received a human transmission. The council listened to the intercepted message. It was simple, clear, and terrifying. "Lay down your arms. We end wars fast. You have 1 hour to evacuate military personnel. Civilian life will be spared." The alien governor laughed at first. He had millions of troops, strong shields, and defensive turrets. But an hour later, human ships appeared at the edge of the system. They didn't charge blindly. They slipped through unexpected wormholes and came from multiple directions at once. Within minutes, the shields collapsed under relentless kinetic strikes. The station surrendered without a fight. Back in the council chamber, one of the older members slammed the table. "This is humiliation. We are the greatest alliance in the galaxy. How can a single species break us so quickly? The strategist replied coldly. Because they prepared. And we did not. Another screen flickered on. It showed an alien commander in a panic. They've bypassed our front lines entirely. We have no idea how they navigated these wormholes. Our fleets are blind. We can't track them. The chair's voice was sharp. Then learn, adapt, do something. But the truth was they had no time. Humanity had forced the entire galaxy to play by their rules, and the Council's slow machine was crumbling under the pressure. On a distant mining world, alien workers gathered outside their facilities as human ships hovered above. There was no bombardment, no chaos, just the silent presence of overwhelming force. One miner whispered, "They're everywhere." That moment was broadcast accidentally across civilian networks. Within minutes, billions of alien civilians saw it, human warships in their skies calm and unshakable. Panic erupted. Council members turned their eyes to the growing civilian unrest. Riots broke out on key worlds. Governors demanded guidance. Fleets requested reinforcements that didn't exist. Supply chains were cut. Even the Council's internal communications lagged under the chaos. The avian councilors stood. "We must issue a united message now. We must calm the population." The chair nodded slowly. "Prepare a transmission." Before they could finish, another technician shouted from the other side of the chamber. "Emergency signal from the Eastern Command Belt. One of the main defense fleets has surrendered." The room froze. "What?" The chair barked. The technician replayed the message. The alien admiral's voice came through, shaky and broken. "I cannot hold them. They appear from nowhere. They strike everything at once. We surrender to save what's left," the strategist whispered. And so it begins, fleet by fleet, world by world. The coalition's once proud forces began to fold. Not because they were weak, but because they were overwhelmed mentally. Humanity had attacked in ways no one had trained for. Their speed, their unpredictability, and their calm efficiency created a wave of fear that spread faster than any weapon. Within the council chamber, chaos grew. Some members shouted for peace talks. Others demanded a counterstrike. Old rivalries between species reappeared. Instead of standing united, they began to argue, just as humanity expected. "They are attacking our homeworlds. We should protect our people first," one shouted. "No, if we lose the central fleets, the rest will fall," another argued. The chair slammed his hand on the table. "Enough, this is exactly what they want. Stop fighting each other!" But his voice was drowned by panic. Some counselors left the chamber to contact their governments directly. Discipline was slipping away. Meanwhile, humanity continued its silent advance. In the third hour of the war, their fleets struck at command relay satellites, the nervous system of the entire coalition. Without these, fleet coordination became impossible. Holomaps in the chamber began to lose detail as relay after relay went offline. The galaxy itself was going dark. In one dramatic moment, a massive coalition fleet tried to regroup for a counterattack. They gathered at a key jump corridor, waiting to form a battle line. But human ships didn't meet them head-on. Instead, they appeared behind them, using a wormhole path that alien scientists had dismissed as unstable centuries ago. The attack was clean, fast, and devastating. Within minutes, half the fleet was gone. The rest scattered like frightened birds. An uneasy silence filled the chamber as they watched the replay. Even the loudest counselors had nothing to say. The strategist spoke slowly. "They studied us. Every tactic, every weak point, every blind spot. This is not luck. This is execution." The chair stood. His eyes were sharp, but his voice was heavy. "Then we face a truth we've ignored for too long. Humanity was never behind us. They were waiting." The chamber lights flickered as another star system surrendered. The countdown timer showed that less than 3 hours had passed since the war began. Yet already, the coalition was collapsing from within. The shockwave had reached every corner of the galaxy. Civilizations that had mocked humanity now begged for help. Fleets that once boasted strength were now adrift. Worlds that once looked down on humans now stared up at their ships in silence. And in the center of it all, the Galactic Council sat helpless, watching their grand alliance unravel before their eyes. The council chamber had once been a place of power. Every decision made there shaped the galaxy, but now it felt like a bunker under siege. Lights flickered as overloaded communication networks struggled to keep up with collapsing fleets. Screens displayed endless lists of fallen sectors, surrendered fleets, and panicked broadcasts. The council members sat in silence, each realizing that their carefully built order was crumbling hour by hour. The council chair stood slowly. His voice was calm but heavy. "We cannot continue like this. Every moment we delay, more systems fall. We must decide our next move now." Around the circular table, alien leaders exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time in living memory, no one had a confident answer. Their war doctrines, their fleet structures, their strategies, all had been built for slow wars of attrition. Humanity had shattered that in less than 3 hours. One counselor, a large-scaled creature with bright orange eyes, leaned forward. "We strike back. We gather every remaining fleet and attack their home system. If we cut off their head, the rest will fall." Another counselor with pale skin and long antennae shook her head. "And how will you reach their home system when their fleets are already inside ours? Our jump corridors are compromised. Our fuel convoys are gone. Our fleets can't even coordinate. You will lead what's left into a trap." Their argument quickly turned into shouting. One demanded retaliation, another urged negotiation. Old rivalries resurfaced. Species that had worked together for centuries now accused each other of cowardice. The chamber filled with noise, not of unity but of panic. The strategist, who had been quiet, raised his hand. The room slowly calmed. "We are not facing a normal enemy. Humanity has planned this war down to the second. If we try to fight them like we fought each other in the past, we will lose everything." The chair looked at him. "Then what do you suggest?" "Adapt," the strategist replied. "Or surrender." The words hit the chamber like a shockwave. Several counselors shouted in outrage. "Surrender? Never! We are the Galactic Council. We cannot bow to a single species." But others were silent. Deep down, they saw the truth. Every hour, humanity pushed deeper. Their fleets struck with perfect precision. They were not fighting to conquer slowly. They were fighting to end the war in one decisive day. Suddenly, one of the large holoscreens flashed red. An emergency alert echoed through the chamber. "Incoming broadcast," a technician shouted. "It's from the human fleet." The room fell silent. A calm human voice filled the chamber. "The war ends in 5 hours. Surrender now and survive. Resist and you will be neutralized. Your fleets cannot outmaneuver us. Your defenses cannot stop us. This is your final choice." The broadcast ended with no music, no threat, no boast, only silence. It was more terrifying than any loud speech could have been. The council chair clenched his fists. "They are forcing us to choose." Before anyone could answer, another technician shouted, "New attack reports coming in. They've launched a second wave." The war map shifted again. Human fleets that had previously been harassing supply lines now turned toward key command worlds. Massive railgun platforms entered orbit around strategic locations. Orbital bombardments began with terrifying accuracy. Communications relays blinked off one by one. In some sectors, alien fleets didn't even try to fight. They simply surrendered before the first shot landed. In the 4th hour of the war, humanity revealed its final plan. They had spent the first hours cutting the galaxy's nerves and arteries. Now they were striking the heart. The Council watched as one of their largest military hubs, Fort Tellus, came under attack. It was a fortress world, protected by layers of orbital cannons and shield grids. Coalition strategists had called it unbreakable. Humanity took it in 11 minutes. The human fleet didn't storm blindly. They used precise, coordinated railgun strikes to overload shield nodes, then dropped drone pods inside the gaps. The drones targeted command towers and power stations, shutting down the entire planetary defense grid from the inside. Alien soldiers on the ground never even saw a human soldier. Only drones and orbiting ships working like a single machine. The council chair stared at the timer on the wall. 4 hours had passed since the war began. In that short time, their fleets had shattered, their worlds were surrendering, and their people were losing hope. He turned to the room. "This is the turning point. We either act now, or we lose everything." The orange-eyed counselor slammed the table. "Then fight. Gather the fleets and attack their forward bases. If we must die, we die fighting," the antennaed counselor shouted back. "And lose even faster? Look at the map. There is nowhere to run and nowhere to hide." The strategist spoke again, steady and cold. "They are giving us one last chance. If we fight now, we are crushed. If we surrender, we survive. Those are the only 2 outcomes." The council chair looked around the room. Some members were pale with fear. Others were red with anger. But all of them knew he was right. Humanity had reached the point of no return, not through slow conquest but through calculated, overwhelming force. Outside the chamber, the galaxy burned quietly. Human fleets moved like shadows, destroying communication lines, disabling fleets surrounding key systems. Every move brought the war closer to its end. The chair took a deep breath. Prepare all remaining fleets for defensive positions around the core worlds. No counterattacks. And send diplomatic probes to the human fleet. If there's a way to save lives, we will take it. Some counselors shouted in protest, but their voices were weak. They had no real alternatives left. As the orders went out, the council chamber fell into an uneasy silence. Everyone felt it. The balance of power had shifted forever. The council was no longer deciding the fate of humanity. Humanity was deciding the fate of the council. The turning point had come. The 5th hour of the war began with silence, the kind that comes after thunder. Across the galaxy, the coalition's fleets hung in disarray. Command channels were broken. Relay stations were gone. Governors on distant worlds no longer looked to the council for guidance. Instead, they stared at the human fleets that now hovered above their skies. In the council chamber, the atmosphere had changed. The proud voices that once filled the room were now whispers. The council members sat like statues, watching the war table as more and more red icons disappeared from the map. Some vanished because they had been destroyed. Others vanished because they had surrendered. The result was the same. A technician broke the silence. Sector 11 has officially surrendered. Their fleet transmitted the human terms without resistance. The chair didn't answer. He simply nodded, his eyes locked on the spreading blue. Humanity's fleets were no longer scattered strike forces. They had begun to merge, forming a single coordinated front. Like a tide, they were sweeping through the galaxy, sector by sector, methodically claiming territory without hesitation. The strategist leaned over the table. His voice was steady but grave. They are no longer striking like raiders. This is occupation. They are taking control of every major route and choke point. The avian counselor spoke softly, almost to himself. They've turned our strength into our prison. All those networks we built to control the galaxy. Now they're using them to close the cage. The orange-eyed counselor stood. Then we fight them there. Gather what fleets remain and strike at their forward command. But a young officer interrupted with a shaky voice. There are no organized fleets left, sir. Communication is broken. Most remaining ships are defending their own home systems, or fleeing. The truth hung in the air like smoke. The coalition's mighty fleets, once symbols of order and control, were now fragmented, leaderless, and afraid. Humanity hadn't just broken their defenses, they had broken their will to fight. In a distant system, a massive alien battleship received a final order from the Council to regroup. But the Admiral, hearing no reinforcements coming, decided to surrender instead. His ship turned on its beacon and broadcast to the humans. We yield. No resistance, his fleet followed. In less than 10 minutes, 1,000 ships laid down their weapons without a single shot fired. News of these surrenders spread fast. Civilian worlds that had been terrified hours earlier now began to accept the inevitable. Some governors opened communication channels to human commanders asking for terms. Others surrendered outright. One by one, the stars turned blue on the Council's war table. The chair watched this unfold with a strange stillness. It's over, he whispered, though no one dared to reply. Then came the moment that truly marked the end. The Coalition Core Fleet, the largest and oldest military force in the galaxy, sent a final message. Their commander appeared on the main screen, his eyes heavy. We have no communication, no supply, no reinforcements. Our ships are surrounded. To fight is to die for nothing. We will not throw our lives away. We surrender. A stunned silence followed. This fleet had fought for centuries, surviving countless wars. Its surrender sent shockwaves through every system. Council members stared at the screen, unable to speak. The strategist closed his eyes. That was the last pillar, he said quietly. The rest will fall now. Outside the chamber, humanity pressed its advantage. Their fleets didn't celebrate. There was no arrogance, no long speeches. They moved forward with cold efficiency, accepting surrenders, disarming fleets, disabling key military structures. Entire worlds were pacified without a single ground invasion. Human technology had already taken control of communications, logistics, and orbital space. The war was ending exactly as they had planned. Clean, fast, and total. Some counselors broke down. One old member covered his face with trembling hands. "Centuries of power," he murmured, "and we lost it in 5 hours." The chair stood. He looked around the room at the leaders who once commanded fear across the galaxy. We built our strength on the belief that no one could challenge us. We laughed at them. We underestimated them. Now our arrogance has cost us everything. The orange-eyed counselor bared his teeth. We should have destroyed them the moment they joined the galactic stage. "This is our fault." The strategist turned to him sharply. "No, this is not just about force. This is about preparation. Humanity learned our ways. They adapted. We stood still. The war table's timer showed 4 hours and 47 minutes since the first human strike. In less than 13 more minutes, the war would reach the official 5-hour mark. But in truth, the war had already been decided. One of the final holoscreens flickered to life. It showed a group of alien soldiers on a distant moon removing their armor and raising a white signal. Human drones hovered above them, silently accepting the surrender. No shots were fired. No speeches were given. The human fleet simply moved on to the next target like clockwork. Across the chamber, a strange quiet settled. There were no more shouts. No more plans. The council members were watching their own empire dissolve in real time. The chair turned to the strategist. "There will be no counterattack." The strategist nodded. "There is no one left to launch it." One by one, council members lowered their heads. Some in shame, some in disbelief, some in silent acceptance. They had always believed that if they ever fell, it would be to some unstoppable alien horror, or a natural disaster, or internal collapse over centuries. But instead it had taken a single day, a single 5-hour war, for humanity to bring the council to its knees. As the war table turned almost entirely blue, the chair whispered the words none of them thought they would ever hear. "The coalition has fallen." 5 hours. That was all it took. When the war began, the Galactic Council expected to watch humanity's defenses crumble. Instead, 5 hours later, they were the ones staring at a galaxy that no longer belonged to them. The war table, once filled with red coalition icons, now glowed almost entirely blue. Human fleet markers surrounded the core worlds, their formations precise and unmoving. Communication lines were in their control. Supply routes were theirs. Defense networks were silent. The council chamber, which had always echoed with authority, now echoed with quiet disbelief. The council chair stood at the center of the room, his face pale under the cold lights. Around him, alien leaders sat motionless. Some stared blankly at the holomap. Others lowered their heads in defeat. No one spoke. What words could they possibly use to explain how centuries of power had ended in a single day? A soft chime broke the silence. A technician's voice was hesitant. "Incoming transmission." From the human fleet. The chamber screens came to life, showing a calm human admiral. There was no arrogance in his face, no rage, no mocking smile. His voice was even and controlled. "The war is over. Hostilities will cease immediately. Your fleets have surrendered. Your systems are under our supervision. We offer you terms of peace. Resist and you will be neutralized. Comply and life will continue." The message ended. No follow-up. No dramatic music. Just calm authority. One of the younger counselors whispered, "They don't sound like conquerors." The strategist replied quietly, "They don't need to." Conquerors shout. Rulers speak softly. The chair took a deep breath and addressed the chamber. "We have 2 choices. Continue to fight with what little we have left and face total destruction, or accept their terms and preserve what remains of our civilizations." The orange-eyed counselor slammed his fist on the table. "Surrender? After everything? You would let them dictate our future?" The antennaed counselor snapped back. "Do you still not see? They already are. Your pride means nothing if your fleets no longer exist." The strategist leaned forward, his voice cold but honest. "This is not surrender in the way we think. This is survival. Humanity does not need to destroy us. They already control everything that matters. We either adapt or disappear." The chair nodded slowly. "Prepare our official response. We will accept negotiations under their terms." The decision was made not with a vote, not with debate, but with silence. The silence of a defeated power. Outside the council chamber, the galaxy itself had fallen into a strange stillness. Worlds that once bristled with coalition fleets were now under the quiet gaze of human ships. There were no parades, no cheering soldiers, no burning cities. Humanity didn't need to occupy through violence. Their technology and strategy had already locked down everything important. In one system, an alien child looked up at the night sky and saw a line of human ships in perfect orbit. They didn't fire, they didn't threaten. They simply watched. That image spread across the networks. For the first time, the citizens of the galaxy understood what their leaders had not. The war was not just lost. The future had changed. The Council sent its reply to the human fleet. A few minutes later, the human response arrived. Acknowledged. Representatives will be received at the appointed time. The transition will be orderly. No gloating. No revenge. Just clear control. The strategist turned to the chair. They've been ready for this for a long time. The chair stared at the map. Yes, while we were laughing at their so-called primitive ways. They were studying us, preparing, waiting. The timer on the wall struck 5 hours exactly. At that precise moment, every human fleet stopped moving. They didn't advance. They didn't fire. They simply held position across hundreds of systems, synchronized like the gears of a vast machine. It was their way of saying, we planned this to the second. In the council chamber, no one dared to speak. The reality was too overwhelming. The Galactic Council, the supreme power for generations, had been reduced to witnesses of their own defeat. The orange-eyed counselor muttered bitterly, "We feared their aggression, but we should have feared their discipline." The strategist nodded. They didn't just win, they redefined war. Outside, human fleets began transmitting signals to civilian networks across alien worlds. Their messages were simple: no resistance, no occupation. Cooperation begins now. Supply ships started moving, not as invaders but as stabilizers. Where the coalition's systems had collapsed, humanity restored them, but under their authority. It wasn't the chaos of conquest. It was the precision of replacement. Some alien citizens resisted at first, but without fleets, without communication networks, without leadership, their efforts faded quickly. Within hours, resistance became whispers, and the whispers slowly turned into acceptance. The chair walked to the edge of the chamber and looked out through the large observation window. The council station orbited a quiet star. In the distance, human ships hung in formation, calm, patient, watching. They were not here to burn the galaxy. They were here to inherit it. The strategist joined him. 5 hours. That's all it took, the chair replied softly. 5 hours to end an empire built over centuries. The strategist turned to him. History will remember this day, not as the fall of the council, but as the moment humanity stepped onto the stage, and the galaxy finally understood who they were. The chair didn't respond. He simply kept watching the distant human ships glowing faintly against the stars. His expression was not just of defeat, but of awe, the kind that comes when something unstoppable reveals itself. The war was over. The galaxy was no longer under the council's rule, and the new age had already begun.